Hey everybody, I'm Chucky. This is Jason. We're in Red Rocks Racing Sportsbook for another segment of Bookends. And Jay, we're sitting in front of the riser and podium here for our big pro football draft watch party tomorrow night. It's going to be fun. I mean, there's so much hype around the draft. We're going to have ex-pro football coach Mike Tice, ex-pro bowler Corey Chavis. Me and you are going to be here, or you and I should say are going to be here, hanging out, having some fun. We want this to be interactive. Guests can ask questions, get autographs, pose for pictures to be posted on social media. We got draft caps. Look at this. The first Commanders cap. Somebody can actually win tomorrow night. The Buccaneers, and of course the Raiders. They don't have a first-round pick, but somebody can actually pick that hat and win that hat, all the Raider fans that are here. So I'm kind of pumped up. It should be fun. Vegas is going to have over 1 million people in town for the draft. I don't think there's any better place to be than here. For me, the pick is in. This is the spot to watch the draft tomorrow night. Red Rocks Racing Sportsbook, our huge NFL draft watch party.
Yeah, looking for some craziness down on the strip and excitement down there, obviously outside the
fountains. Craziness here.
It's going to be exciting. And not only these are, 3 caps that we got on display, but we're going to have all 32 teams available for guests to pick up and win, and a lot of prizes. And it's going to be, I think, a lot of fun. I think that there's a lot of question marks as to quarterbacks, offensive linemen, wide receivers, and what's actually going to go down on Thursday beginning at 5 o'clock. And let's jump right into it and kind of we've had some fun putting props up.
We have
got some really kind of unique ones that we don't think that really anywhere in the world has some of the props that we put up on this year's draft. So a lot of fun and excitement, especially with the draft being here in Vegas.
First, really quick, before we get into kind of the props, and we're actually going to do our kind of 10-round mock. We're each going to go back and forth and kind of talk about who we think are the top 10. But regarding the draft caps, we're going to have all 32 caps. So if you're here, you can win a cap. And if you happen to win, you can either choose the team that's on the clock or choose any team that you want. So you have an opportunity to win your favorite team's draft cap. You can trade caps. You can have fun with them. And as I said, Coach Tyson, Corey Chavis are going to be here, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing this tomorrow night. So,
yeah, these are the official caps that the players will be putting on when they walk up on stage. So really cool that we were able to get these, and it's a cool prize to have.
Yeah, I think it's great. You can actually put one on, and we're going to have our social guru, John, kind of take your picture and post it if you want out there from Stephen Money on STN Sports. So it's kind of a cool event, I think, that we're really going to have some fun tomorrow night. All right, let's jump into it. As you said, props. I mean, we've had so much fun with these. I think we were the first to market with putting some of these pro football draft props up. We put them up in late January. So there was just a lot of smoke screens and rumors and hearsay and stuff on Twitter out there. It was all about Hutchinson going number 1. Then it was about the linemen. If it was at Iggy, Neal, Cross, we saw a big push. Then it was Hutchinson again. Now the latest buzz in the last 48 hours, it's all about Walker, the defensive end from Georgia, who we initially had in our field at 40 or 50 to 1. So there's a lot of guests that are smiling right now. We're not rooting for Walker to go number 1. There's a lot of guests who are.
Well, we talked about Jacksonville, and obviously when you have the number 1 pick, you have a lot of needs. They've got a lot of needs to fill. It looks like Walker is the guy in all the reports. That's the one thing that's interesting about draft props is it's not something that actually is going to occur on the field. So you can do some handicapping out there. You can read up on these teams. You can read on information.
Get on Twitter.
Get on Twitter and find out what these teams are actually thinking and get information. So it's one of those things that's kind of, if you can handicap and study what's going on out there, you find a way to beat some of these draft props.
Yeah, it's really kind of strange because you're right. It's not something that's decided on the field. It's based on what they did on the field, but the draft itself is based on just kind of information that's out there. And you look at Hutchinson, who had the 3 really good years at Michigan, 14 sacks this year opposed to 6 for Walker. But Walker's kind of that guy that they look at the upside right now. He's one of those kind of tweeners that can go from side to side, a little bit like Brian Urlacher did, just changes the defensive scheme. He's flying up draft boards right now, and it looks like that's going to be the pick for Jacksonville. But I still lean towards Hutchinson, and we'll get into that with the mock, but that's what makes the draft fun.
I'm ready to go. All
right. So another really cool prop that I don't think anybody has up. Let's talk about it, is that we know everybody trades in the first round. There's always trades. I think in the last 10 years, you look at, there's been as many as 7 and as few as 2. But we've got something up now that I don't think anybody has up, and that's how many trades there'll be in the first round.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun working on this yesterday. We looked at just really a 10-year history of number of trades that had occurred in the first round. So we put up an index, 0 trades to 11 or more. You can bet exactly the amount of trades that are going to occur on Thursday. And again, this is trades of a first-round draft pick selections.
This year.
Yeah, this year, on Thursday only, the trades that get swapped. And you said it, that the last 10 years, never a 0 or 1. There was 1, 2, and as high as 7. And the average is right around 5. So you kind of see that 4, 5, and 6 are the favorites, but definitely some outliers. You can get as much as 40 to 1 on no trades in the first round and 35 to 1 on 11 trades or more. And a lot of talk out there that we're expecting these trades to happen, in particular with guys like Deebo Samuel, Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe Mayfield. But I think it adds an interesting dynamic to what's going to happen on Thursday night.
Yeah, it really does, because I think you look at teams right now, and this is such a wide receiver deep draft. And we have that prop up as well, over under 6 wide receivers. I think you could easily see 7 or more go. But because they've become such a polarizing position, I think after the quarterback right now and maybe the edge rusher, you make a case that wide receiver is the most important position in the draft. And you look at guys like Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, who were moved. It's because young playmakers come in. If it's Jamar Chase, if it's Justin Jefferson, they become dynamic and they change a team's offensive scheme. There's so many wide receivers in this draft that can do the same thing. That do you see a Metcalf, as you said, a Deebo Samuel, a Terry McLaurin, an A.J. Brown moved because you can grab a younger player who's a lot less expensive. This all changed when the Jags gave Christian Kirk all that money. Now, wide receivers are demanding big paydays, upwards of $25 million. A lot of teams aren't prepared to make that commitment. So I think you see a lot of movement regarding the wide receivers.
Yeah, we talked about it 2 weeks ago that we really thought this was a draft of offensive linemen. The quality and quantity of offensive linemen that are going to be available. We're going to see a good number of those guys go, probably in the top 20. We're going to see some linemen go. But wide receivers, once we get through that, maybe first 8 picks or so, the back end of the draft, a lot of needs for wide receivers and a lot of talent there. And you said it, the Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, the success that they've had early in their career with wide receivers, historically takes them 2 or 3 years to really get going and put up decent stats. But that's kind of switched over the last couple of years, and we'll hopefully be able to see these young receivers have some good stats right out of the box.
Well, I think the interesting thing is we kind of touched on Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams, and you think about Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. If it's a Drake London, if it's a Williams, if it's an Olave, that what kind of impact can they have with Mahomes and Rodgers? So I think those are 2 teams now that each have multiple first-round picks. I think there's 4 or 5 teams, maybe even 6 that have multiple first-round picks that I can't remember that many teams. So that's why I think there's going to be so many trades, so much wheeling and dealing for these teams to kind of go up there. If it's Burks, another wide receiver, you've got Dotson and Watson from Penn State and North Dakota State who can maybe get that number to 7. But I think that's why with all these teams with multiple draft picks in the first round, you're going to see so much movement. And I do think that one of the 4 wideouts that we mentioned, McLaurin, Brown, Metcalf, and Samuel, I think you see at least one of those guys, maybe 2 of them moved on draft day.
Yeah, and you talked about the number of wide receivers. We have our over-under at 6. And we talked about this being an offensive lineman draft. The over-under is 7 on total number of offensive linemen to be drafted in the first round. So you can see that those are going to be the 2 premium positions that we're going to see Thursday night. And quarterbacks, we've got that number at 3. And then some of the other...
Well, let's talk about that, though, the quarterback. Yep. Usually, every year in the top 5, last year we saw 3 go. You saw right away it was Lawrence, Wilson, and Lance go off the board right away, top 3. This year, there's not that kind of John Elway or Andrew Luck type guy. Everyone kind of said that Trevor Lawrence coming
you're
in
aging
was the
yourself
can't
throwing
miss.
Out the John Elway.
I am. But I'm just talking about a guy that everyone says can't miss, coming out of college, like Luck and Elway. People said that about Trevor Lawrence as well, that he's going to be a surefire superstar at the next level, although he had struggles his rookie year. So you look at that. You look at the 5 quarterbacks that went last year, Fields and Jones going after the top 3 pick. But the 4 or 5 that everyone's talking about this year, I'm even going to throw Davis Mills in last year, who went in later rounds to the Texans, that they say the 6 that went last year are better or would have been graded higher than any of the 5 guys who look to be potential first and second round picks this year. So with only 3, and I think Willis and Pickett are going to be the 2 that definitely go in the first round. But if somebody asked me if you thought there'd be 4 or 2, I'd probably go with 2 over 4 because I'm just not sure that 2 of those guys sneak back into the first round. I think Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati is the guy that's kind of flying up draft boards right now. But does Matt Corral or Sam Howell somehow find their way back into the first round?
Well, to get to 4, it's going to have to be one of those 2 guys finding their way up. You talk about Ridder, he's the key to getting to that 3rd. I don't think there's any way that Detroit, unless they trade the pick, sitting at 32, the last pick of the first round, a pick that they acquired from the Rams, will pass on Ritter. I think that drafting that quarterback in the first round, getting that fifth
year,
of eligibility, and the talent that he is, and coming out of Cincinnati with the vicinity of Detroit and the Lions, looking to what their future may be. Obviously, with that second round draft pick, being able to put a keystone player into their lineup, into their roster, it would be a real shock if Ritter falls past Detroit at 32 and somebody may jump up in front of them to try and get him, and then that forces them maybe to go to one of those other guys at that 32nd pick.
I think what's interesting too is that you have so many teams. I mean, this offseason was like none other with the trades, but so many teams were quarterback hungry. It's a quarterback driven league. You see teams kind of trade up or overdraft players because they need a quarterback. And you've got Carolina, who might have the most difficult or ugliest quarterback situation in the league. Atlanta, as you and I've kind of talked about, are they going to go into the league season like that?
I'm really interested in what Atlanta, not necessarily with the 8th pick, but obviously we know that they have a real need in wide receiver depth with the 8th pick, but
they could take a quarterback at 8 too.
They've got Marcus Mariota and Felipe Franks are the two quarterbacks on their roster. Marcus Mariota, obviously from the Raiders, but this guy hasn't been able to stay healthy his entire career. And I don't know that you can say, I'm excited to be able to have Felipe Franks be my starting quarterback. So I really think Atlanta is going to do something here, whether it's Thursday or Friday, to add some quarterback depth to that lineup.
I think you look at Seattle, too. They make the trade for Russell Wilson. They've said, we're really happy about Drew Lock and the situation we're in. But I can see that being a trade that maybe occurs where they take a quarterback. And then a little bit later, it's the Saints and it's the Steelers, who I think both could use a quarterback as well. The Saints did sign Jameis Winston. The Steelers have Mitchell Trubisky and Mason Rudolph. I think all those teams. But what the wild card for me is that you still have Jimmy Garoppolo and Baker Mayfield out there. So a team that maybe decides, I'm not sure I want to grab one of these quarterbacks because none of them maybe can start right away. Only maybe Pickett can. But do I wait then and make a trade for Jimmy Garoppolo or Baker Mayfield, which causes some of these quarterbacks to drop?
Yeah, and again, it's evaluating talent and depth and what they think, what the ceiling is on these guys. So you said it before, that this quarterback class isn't what it has been in years past, and I think we're going to.
One of them might turn out to be the next,
hopefully they do,
stud,
and that's what we're hoping for.
Right.
These guys end up being playmakers in the league, and we enjoy them. But it's going to be tough to see where these guys go. Obviously, Carolina and Pittsburgh, we fully expect to take quarterbacks in the first round. I think just about every mock draft you go through, it's finding Carolina and Pitt with the quarterback position.
And there's some really interesting ties. I know we'll go through our mock, and we've got the two quarterbacks too. We've got Pickett and Malik Willis, and we have 10 teams listed for each of those two players, including the field. Where would they go? And you think about Kenny Pickett. As a high school junior, he committed to Temple. The coach that recruited him, none other than Matt Rule from Carolina, who he talked about that needs a quarterback. They picked number 6. Kenny Pickett trained at the Pittsburgh Steelers facility for the last 2 years. They saw him for 2 years. They saw him go through his growth, shatter all the records of Dan Marino. Pittsburgh has they've never forgiven the Steelers for passing on Dan Marino out of Pitt. Do they pass on Kenny Pickett if he's on the board out of Pitt? So I think there's a lot of kind of cool stuff with the quarterbacks as well. Quarterback-driven league. We know how many teams were in on Deshaun Watson. We saw Russell Wilson moved in the offseason. You saw Wentz moved in the offseason. All the talk now about Mayfield and what's going to happen with Jimmy Garoppolo. It is kind of a wild card as far as the quarterbacks go, with no kind of surefire guy based on what projections are right now.
Yeah, and again, I think going back to, you take a quarterback in the first round, you gain an extra year of eligibility, ownership that you own him, and I think that's a key component of why you see quarterbacks go in the first round.
And I think the teams that we kind of talked about, you look at Pittsburgh, Mitchell Trubisky only got a 2-year deal. I think Jameis Winston has a 1-year deal. Jared Goff has 1 year left. So those guys can be a bridge to one of these young kids coming in. But as we know, I mean, being Bears fans, we saw Justin Fields last year. He wasn't ready, but the fans wanted him in. You wanted to see that rookie quarterback in. It kind of it gives the fan base excitement. It gives the whole organization excitement. And we'll see if these guys, what ultimately happens with them. But I think it's going to be fun with the quarterbacks to see ultimately what happens on draft night.
You ready to jump into a little mock here?
Let's do a little mocking. All right, we've had these up for a long time. I'm not going to change. I know that kind of the buzz right now is Walker from Georgia. I just think Hutchinson is such a surefire, can't miss guy that I'm surprised that Jacksonville's going that route. But then again, it is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They did pay Christian Kirk, who I think had 3 touchdowns last year and about 500 and something yards receiving, over $20 million, which skewed the wide receiver market. So I'm going to stick with Hutchinson, number 1 from Michigan.
If I was drafting for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that's the number 1 pick we're talking about, I would be on an offensive lineman here for sure. I think your biggest commodity is Trevor Lawrence. You got to find a way to protect him. You got to find a way to score points. They were awful all over the field. So really taking the best player available in the draft is probably what they should do. So Walker is really a surprise pick here, because when you look to the guys that are the talent evaluators and where they have these guys ranked, not a lot of guys have him ranking the top 3. He kind of falls more into that 4 and 5 ranking. But
he was actually, I didn't interrupt, but he was actually beyond the top 10 when initial projections went out and kind of before the combine.
I'm going to believe all the hype. I'm going to trust the Twitter universe, and I'm going to stick with Trayvon Walker being the favorite and Jacksonville going down that route.
If that is the case, though, and if you're Detroit and you have a chance to get the local kid from Michigan who just threw out the first pitch at the Tiger game on Sunday, I don't think you take the 10 minutes. I think you run the card up to the podium and grab Hutchinson number 2.
Yeah, so I'm sticking with Hutchinson as number 2 because I'll take Walker in the first round, and I think if Hutchinson goes 1, I'll say what you're saying, that Walker then goes in the 2 spot.
So both edges, we both are kind of on board that both edges, which everybody is kind of saying right now, does go 1-2. So number 3 is the Texans. They have a lot of holes. They've got a young quarterback in Davis Mills. I know that there's some talented defensive players on the board still, but I'm going to go with Neal now, the offensive lineman. I think Evan Neal is the guy that you need to protect Davis Mills. You need to build from the trenches. I'm going to go with Neal, number 3 to the Texans.
I was on an offensive lineman here as well. I'm on a different one in Kwanu from NC State. But I do think that they could throw a wrinkle in here. Thibodeau is a guy, the defensive end from Oregon, has been really falling down the mock draft. But the Texans only had 32 sacks last year. It was really an awful no quarterback pressure from them at all. So there's a couple different ways Houston go here.
Who's the Texans head coach? Lovie Smith. The defensive guy, right?
Defense. Right. So I think that they may go Thibodeau here, but I'm going to stay. But I'm going to switch. I'm not going to go to Neal. I'm going to go to Iggy Ekwonu, the NC State offensive tackle.
Okay. Number 4 now, the Jets. And, they have a lot of holes. I mean, they could go defense. They could go wide receiver here to help a young quarterback. But I'm going to go.
They could also go trade.
They could, right? Yeah.
They have the 4th and the 10th pick. Right. So that could be a heck of a package that they could put together for one of these veteran receivers that may be out there.
This could be the spot for Debo. You don't package, I don't think, Garoppolo and Debo to the Jets because you have Wilson, but this could be a spot for Debo. The first chance that maybe you see a trade like that. But I'm going to say that they go ahead and go Sauce Gardner, the cornerback from Cincinnati here. They had a great cornerback in Revis for a long time. I say they go Sauce here with the 4th overall pick.
I'm on the same train. Sauce Gardner to the Jets, number 4.
It's all about the sauce at the good restaurants in New York, guys. With the 5th pick now, it's the Giants. And I'm going to kind of do what you did. I think it's offensive linemen. Giants could go defense or offense here, but I think they still have a young quarterback. They could invest in another quarterback someplace during the draft. But I'm going to go with Iggy Ekwonu here with the 5th overall pick, go offensive lineman for the Giants.
Yeah, I'll stay with offensive lineman. I'm just swapping out with you. So you took Neal with the 3rd pick. I took Ekwonu with the 3rd pick. I'm going to go back to Evan Neal, the offensive tackle from Alabama, here for the Giants.
So we've been fairly kind of consistent so far. Now it's the number 6 pick, and I think this is where it really gets interesting because it's Carolina. We know that their quarterback situation isn't good. They were all in on Deshaun Watson. They've been in on almost every quarterback that's been available. Do they trade back? I think you could see another trade here if somebody covets one of those wide receivers. And you've got teams like the Saints with 2 picks. You look at Packers with 2 picks, Chiefs with 2 picks. Would anybody want to package those picks to kind of move up to get the wide receiver that they covet? And Carolina could move back and get the quarterback that maybe they covet. I think if they stay here, I'm gonna reach here, but I'm gonna say they do not let Kenny Pickett get past number 6. I think Carolina grabs their quarterback of the future and the most ready of the 5 quarterbacks that are projected to go in the 1st or 2nd round. I think it's Kenny Pickett here to Carolina with 6 overall.
All I've got is Carolina, and I've got a QB. So I don't know whether it's Pickett or Willis, but I don't believe that Carolina selects a QB in the 6th spot of this draft. I truly believe that Carolina moves back. Somebody comes up to take 6. Carolina, there is no reason for them to take Kenny Pickett or Willis at the 6th pick in the draft. There is no need at that time. I think someone is going to take the 6th pick to go after a guy they want, and we'll see Carolina move back at this point.
I think they will too, but it's such a quarterback-driven league. And, there was no need for the Bears to trade from 3-2 with San Francisco several years ago to take Mitchell Trubisky. But I think, again, this is a team that you can make a case has the worst quarterback position or situation right now in the league. They owe Sam Darnold over almost $20 million. It's obvious they want to move on from that spot. They still could get Baker Mayfield. They can get Jimmy Garoppolo, but I think somehow they end up with Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm saying I think they take a QB, and it could be Pickett. I just don't think it's in the 6th spot in the NFL draft. Going to what the Steelers have, 20? 20. So as long as they can move back and stay in front of the Steelers, they can get one of those two guys. There's no reason to spend it at 6. You can move back.
Steelers might move
give
up
somebody
too.
Something.
Right.
Yeah,
yep.
But I just think that this is a great spot for Carolina to move down and give somebody that's wanting to go after a certain player at this point in time.
So now it's number 7, and it's the Giants again. This is the pick that they traded last year. They moved back a few spots, traded with the Bears when the Bears took Justin Fields. The Giants can go a lot of ways here. I know we have them both taking an offensive lineman. I'm going to say that they take, in my opinion, maybe the best defensive player on the board left, maybe the best defensive player in the draft, and that's Kyle Hamilton. I think they go Kyle Hamilton here, DB from Notre Dame. I think that's the pick at number 7 for the Giants.
I'm taking the Giants with number 7, a guy that's kind of flying up the radar the last couple days, Jermaine Johnson, the defensive end from Florida State. I think that they can use an edge rusher there, be able to attack the Eagles, Giants, Cowboys. Need to get a guy on defense and coveting those defensive end positions.
Okay, and now the next team is Atlanta. And, if you look at Atlanta right now, traded, Julio Jones 2 years ago, the situation with Calvin Ridley's suspension, they have no wideouts right now for Marcus Mariota. I think you have to go wide out here. You have to be, you have your choice. If it's Williams, if it's Olave, if it's Drake London. I think if they stay in this spot, although it'd be mighty tempting, if Malik Willis if Kenny Pickett happened to go at 6, I think Atlanta, they passed on all these guys last year. Do they grab a Malik Willis, knowing that maybe Mariota's the bridge for a year or two? But if they don't, I think they go wide receiver here. I'm not sure which guy, but I'm going to go with Williams right here in this spot, but I think they go wide receiver.
I'll stick with in the wide receiver position, but I'll go to Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State in this spot. I think he's going to be the first wide receiver taken off the board.
So the next team now that comes in is the Seattle Seahawks at number 9. They've got a lot of issues. I don't think they take a quarterback here, but I think the slide of Thibodeau is just, it stops here. I think if you're Seattle, you get a guy from that area who can come in, who can cause havoc on the defense. You know that you're going to be chasing guys like in that division that are really good, like Kyler Murray and what the Rams bring on offense and what the Niners do with Trey Lance and Matt Stafford. I think it's Thibodeau here at number 9 to Seattle.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go. You had taken Hamilton with the Giants, and I'll say Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame, slips here. Also interested in Derek Stingley from LSU, the cornerback out of LSU. Been flying up the draft boards after his pro day. Seattle needs a lot of work, and when you're in that division with the great wide receivers and these quarterbacks, I think that they got to get some help on the defensive side of the ball, in the secondary in particular. So I'm gonna go Hamilton out of Notre Dame, which you had gone with the 7th pick.
Now we're at the Jets. This is going to kind of round out our top 10 mock. They got Sauce Gardner at number 4, who going to be an instant impact player. We talked about maybe wide receiver. This is where I think they go Garrett Wilson right now at number 10. They get that wide out to help a young quarterback there. And I'm going to go with a wide receiver for the Jets, Garrett Wilson at number 10.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to a wide receiver as well. You talked about getting the cornerback position with their first pick at 4, at 10. But I'm going to go to Drake London, the wide receiver out of USC. I think he's been kind of coveted by them within the organization. I think that he's a guy that they're going after ahead of Williams, ahead of Olave. I look for Drake London to go here to the Jets at 10.
So it's fun. We've kind of gone through our top 10. We could easily go through an entire mock, and that's what makes it so great. I think, draft night, there's so much intrigue and, smoke screens. And that's the big thing right now is any of these teams kind of targeting a guy that there's information on Twitter and information out there who they're really hoping somebody will kind of trade up with them or entice somebody to make that trade. So it's a lot of fun, guys. We're looking forward to our big party again Thursday night. Coach Mike Tice, Corey Chavis, ex-Pro Bowler, Jason and myself, draft caps. Again, the Commanders hat, the Raiders hat, the Bucks hat, all 32 teams. You have a chance to win a cap from one of those teams. It's going to be a lot of fun Thursday night.
Yeah, and one of the unique things about the NFL draft and wagering on the NFL draft is it's not available up until the game starts, the way almost everything else that we do. Due to some regulations that we have to follow, the draft props with any individual player are going to go off at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, 24 hours in advance of the draft. So if you're looking to bet specifically on an individual player, a prop that has a guy's name attached to it, that's going to go off at 5 o'clock on Wednesday. The rest of the props will turn off at 5 o'clock on Thursday. So it's not like you're going to be able to bet who's going to be the 15th pick when we're sitting on the 12th pick. You're going to have to get here Wednesday by 5 for something with a player's name, and then the just in general props without a player's name, those are going to come off the board as soon as the draft begins. So make sure to get in today, get yourself signed up for the app, and make your draft props. And I know you've got a t-shirt. We've got a great promo going on right now for all new signups, up to $100 bonus for new app signups. And if you deposit $50 or more, you get a
cool
Stephen Money t-shirt at you to represent STN Sports, and we'd love to have you guys out there showing off Stephen Money and checking out him in the commercials. Get a lot of fun comments on his activities, but look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow night for the draft party here at Red Rock.
Yeah, I think what's cool about that is, as you kind of mentioned, the draft's going to be fun. It's going to be right here in the Racing Sports VIP area, the lounge, the book itself. The atmosphere is going to be tremendous, but you can make wagers before that. So during the draft, you're cheering or booing your favorite team and who they take, but you can also have a vested interest in what goes on. So have fun with the draft, guys. We're both draft nicks. We're going to be here tomorrow night. We hope to see all you guys. Chucky, this is Jason. Come on out tomorrow night. Have some fun, and we'll see you guys next week on another episode of Bookends.